Welcome to the Kingdom Culture Podcast that was created on purpose with a purpose to empower, uplift, and guide others to the center of God's perfect will. Kingdom Culture family, welcome back to the Kingdom Culture Podcast. I hope you guys are all having an amazing week. Welcome back to my heartbreak series. This week I want to talk about something that a lot of us carry but don't really care to talk about much, and that's trust issues. So as I've been reflecting throughout this whole season, I realized that I do have trust issues, not just with people, right, but within myself. And that could be hard to admit because our egos don't like to ever be challenged. But I realized that there were some things that I ignored during my relationship that, pretty much brought me to this point now, right? I started questioning, was it real? What did I ignore? How did I even get here, right? Because we start to question ourselves first before anything else. Trust issues aren't something that we just come up with. They're built, right? So through disappointment, through inconsistency, through moments where our intuition whispered and we didn't listen. And that part right there, not listening to, my intuition, my gut, the spirit, it was challenging at first because I said, I could see, where when we were dating, there was moments where I could have walked away or I should have. And I fell in love with what could have been, I was ignoring the actual truth behind this person and decided to put it in God's hands and say, God will change him. And I abandoned myself. And so that really hit me because that's something that we sometimes don't want to face. I like to say that we love to put the blame on somebody else, but if you're truly trying to heal and figure out what your next, step is in life, I think you need to look inward. And so that's what I've been doing. And this season has forced me to reflect, to look at where I didn't put boundaries up, to look at where I didn't, communicate correctly and where I left my self-respect. Because all those three things are so important in a relationship, right? So I asked myself those three questions. Where did I lack in boundaries? Where did I stay quiet instead of communicating? And where did I choose being liked over being respected? Because sometimes we like to keep the peace, to keep things, going on and on, but I confused being a good woman with being overly understanding. I thought love meant being patient no matter what. I thought communication meant explaining myself over and over, instead of recognizing when someone just wasn't meeting me there. He wasn't listening. He wasn't grasping what I was trying to communicate, right? And my self-respect was being thrown out the window because I did want certain things to change within our relationship, but it was always the same old, oh no, you're just, overreacting over this, or, it's always the same fight over and over. And I finally picked up my self-respect and said, okay, you know what, we don't work. Let me go on with my life, because self-respect is walking away when something doesn't align with who you're trying to become, right? And so I had to sit with that. I had to reflect and say, okay, you know what? We just don't work. He is a good person, but our mindsets, our way of being as a person, they're just too different. And so we're just going to keep clashing, right? And so I had to walk away. So the growth that I'm going through now are really seeing the patterns I'm no longer going to fall into, right? Because if you don't identify those patterns, you're going to repeat them. And so this is where I'm at right now. And I had to get real with myself and say, I'm no longer ignoring red flags because I see potential, like falling in love with potential instead of the truth of who the person is. I'm no longer overgiving to prove my worth. I'm no longer staying in situations that feel confusing, because love is not supposed to feel like confusion. Okay? And I really had to be okay with realizing that there was a lot of things that I was dismissing from people, not just my last relationship, but all of them coming up to this point. I always saw potential in people, and I'm like, oh, we're going to be great. Me and you, I'm just going to pull you along because I know I'm a really good person. And so we're going to build this life and it's going to be amazing. But one of the big patterns I think I have is being a savior complex. It's called having the savior complex, where you think you can change somebody and save them and create a better life for them that they really, don't really understand or will grasp to. So that's one of the biggest patterns that I've identified and I'm working through, because I fall in love with potential and not the truth of who a person is. So what are the patterns that you need to, identify? What are the things that you ignore? What are the things that you actually want to do with a relationship? What does that look like? What's the healthy part of it, right? And another reason we don't trust others, right? It could be because they've let us down or whatever else. But in reality, it's like we don't trust ourselves. We remember that we don't trust ourselves. So we're fixing that now, right? So how do you start rebuilding your trust within yourself, right? Because before you can trust someone else, again, you have to rebuild the trust within you. And that could look like listening to your intuition the first time, like that gut feeling that you get. It could look like honoring your boundaries without feeling guilty. It could be just you keeping your word to yourself. Like me, I'm not going to ignore red flags anymore. And that's going to be the way that I'm going to start building my trust within myself right now, is just making sure that I keep what I tell myself I'm going to do, I'm going to do. Because when you trust yourself, you don't need constant reassurance from others. You move differently and you choose differently. And you don't fear love. You just approach it with wisdom. And that was another thing about me, because I'm like, I have been in all these relationships since I was like 15. And I'm like, I'm going to take a time out. I don't need love. I'm good. So it was kind of getting into the mindset of like, I don't need love. It's brought me nothing. But if you are a healthy, healed version of yourself, that means that you're not operating out of fear or out of hurt. So I told myself, I'm like, wait, no, I don't want to be that person. If it comes, let it come. If it doesn't, then I'll just keep working on myself so that when it does show up, I'm ready for it, right? But you don't ever want to be that person that says, that's not for me, because life is beautiful and life is all about experience. And you learn as you go, right? So you want to approach whatever it is that you're working on with wisdom. And that's what helps when you're going through things like this. So these are the things that I'm doing now to help with my trust, healing my trust issues, okay? Number 1 is you get honest about your last relationship, okay? Not just what they did, but what you allowed, ignored, and excused. That's going to be a big one, because you're going to feel like you're like, oh man, how could that be me? There's no way. But you have to get honest about what you excused, allowed, and ignored. That way you don't do it the next time, okay? Number 2, this has been really fun to get into, but you define your non-negotiables, okay? What are the things you will not tolerate again? Be clear and stand on it. Make a list and tell yourself, what are my non-negotiables for the next time I get into a relationship? For me, it's going to be someone that can communicate very well. I don't like arguing or screaming. I feel like that's not doing anything for anybody. You're not communicating. So that's one of my non-negotiables. They have to be patient. That's another one. And also one for me as a person, I'm not going to give my all right away. So that's another thing that I did, was like, I'm an open book. I said, I wear my heart on my sleeve. Who I am is who you get. And it's true, right? But now I want to take my time to get to know somebody, to know how deep we're going to go, if that makes sense, right? And then number 3, rebuild self-trust daily. So I show up for myself, I have my routines, going to the gym, writing, reading my Bible, all of those things. Help me rebuild the trust within myself, because I'm doing what I say I'm going to do and not just speaking about it. For you, it could be as simple as just taking the same route to work for a little bit, or getting into something new and allowing yourself to do it. And so you start building your trust daily in that way. Affirmations is a really good way as well. And I'm going to stop rushing. So I'm going to take my time with people, whether it's romantically, friendships, whatever it is. I'm going to stop rushing connections. I'm going to let people reveal who they are through consistency and their actions, not just their words. And I think that was a big moment for me too, because I love people. I love people. I am a people person. I love to hear about your stories, about who you are, what you're doing. Like, I just love it so much that I see the potential in people before they see it in themselves, I think. And so it's really hard for me to be like, oh, no, don't get stuck there. I can pull you out, right? So I'm taking my time with people and realizing that who I am is a very special person who loves, gives, and will pour into people immensely. And that's amazing, but I have to make sure that I'm not putting myself last, right? So, I also, like always, right, talk about the Lord because he has taught me so much. I was trying to control outcomes so I wouldn't get hurt again. And God is teaching me that I don't have to have control over everything. It was funny, a friend of mine, she's been very present in my life going through this whole thing. And I was telling her, I'm like, hey, you know what? I think I'm done dating for a very long time. And I'm just going to, pause that part of my life. But she told me something. She said, hey, like, you cannot fear getting to know other people because I feel like God will align who is meant to be for you, even if you don't want it right now, right? And so she pretty much told me that, and I stopped closing myself off, and I said, okay, I need to trust God. I don't need to put it on myself to pick wrong again, right? But I need to trust the Lord and say, like, you're going to lead me to where I need to be with who I need to be, and I need to trust that, right? And when something doesn't work out, it's not a loss. It's God's protection. Let me say that again because that was a big thing that changed my mindset on this whole I'm done with dating. When something doesn't work out, whether it be a relationship, a job, anything, it's not a loss. It's a protection from the Lord because he knows your tomorrow, right? He holds that in his hands. And it's so freeing when you just allow yourself to be and trust that no matter what happens, no matter what you go through, God is always working for your utmost good, right? And he brought me into the book of Proverbs, which is awesome to always go into, but it's Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him and he will make your paths straight. And that's so powerful. That grounded me. It reminded me that I don't need to understand everything. I don't need to know why something happened the way that it did, but God does. God knows what's best for all of us, right? And so we just have to trust him and realize that, like, life is going to come in seasons. There's going to be seasons where you're going to be in your highs and you're going to be in your lows. You're going to be learning something new. You're going to be meeting a bunch of people. But at the end of the day, he is working for your utmost good and you have to trust him, right? And it's been so freeing and amazing. So, healing from trust issues isn't about becoming guarded or cold. It's about becoming discerning, using wisdom from what you've learned to be better. It's about loving again, but this time not at the expense of yourself. You're not going to lose your ability to love deeply. That's another thing that I'm learning. Like, I love so much, and I'm not ever going to lose that or the desire to show it and, walk in it. I'm just learning how to love in a way that honors who I am as a person, and the right person will carry all of that. Put him in it, God's going to be like, I'm handing you this person, and the person's going to just accept it and be, right? That's where your real peace is. Learning to love in a way that honors yourself, and you're not putting yourself, behind somebody else. I hope that this brought value to your life, that you feel refreshed, and that, you guys are learning through this with me. It's truly been a real season of growth and change, and it's really cool to be able to share with you guys, because last year, it totally destroyed me. It did, and it's really, really good to see what God can do with your brokenness. It's really good to see how God can rebuild you if you allow him to. So anyways, don't forget that I love you, but that the Lord loves you more. Always, always, always. And we'll see you guys next week. God bless.